At some point in healing, something strange starts to happen. Your old life doesn't fit anymore. The people you used to tolerate feel heavy. The relationships you once fought for feel wrong. The version of you that used to bend, chase, explain, and overextend feels foreign. And it's confusing because on the outside, nothing bad is happening, but on the inside, everything feels different. You're not dramatic, you're not ungrateful, you're not becoming cold. You're outgrowing a life that was built on survival, not alignment. And today, I want to explain why your old life doesn't fit anymore, why that can feel lonely, and why this is actually one of the strongest signs that you're healing. Stay with me. One of the first things that changes is how people feel in your body. Friends you once felt close to now feel draining. Conversations that used to feel normal now feel shallow. Family dynamics you once accepted now feel heavy. It's not that people suddenly became bad, it's that you're no longer operating from the version of you that needed to be accepted at all costs. When you start choosing yourself, you stop overgiving to be loved. You stop shrinking to be included. You stop absorbing other people's emotions as your responsibility. So naturally, your nervous system starts rejecting what used to feel normal. This can look like wanting more space, not engaging in every conversation, feeling tired of the social interactions, realizing certain relationships will build on you over functioning. And this is where guilt shows up. Because when you change, the people who benefited from your old self feel the shift before they understand it. You're not becoming distant, you're becoming more honest with your energy. Now, why dating doesn't feel the same anymore? This one is big. When you start healing, you don't date the same way anymore. You don't attach as quickly. You don't romanticize potential the same way. You don't ignore red flags to preserve a connection. You don't chase emotional inconsistency like you used to. Even if your ex came back with flowers, even if they promised change, even if they looked different, spoke differently, and acted softer, there's a part of you now that cannot fully go back into the old emotional role. You can try it, you can feel nostalgic, you can remember the good moments, but something in you knows very well I am not the person who loved you the same way anymore. And that's painful because you're not just letting go of them, you're letting go of who you were when you loved them. This is not bitterness, this is growth. Your nervous system no longer wants chaos disguised as chemistry. Your body no longer wants inconsistency disguised as love. At some point in healing, you get tired of talking to the wall. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't trying to understand you. You stop giving your energy to conversations that go nowhere. You stop offering emotional labor to people who don't reciprocate. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself. You become present, you listen, you observe, but you no longer feel the urge to convince, correct, or justify yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. This is a quiet but very powerful shift. Your old self needed to be understood. Your healed self understands herself. That's the difference. Another sign that your old life doesn't fit anymore, you start enjoying being alone. Not in a lonely way, in a grounding way. Your nervous system begins to associate solitude with safety. You're no longer constantly seeking distraction. You're no longer filling in the silence with noise. You're no longer avoiding yourself. Time alone starts to feel like clarity, regulation, peace, reset, self-connection. This can be scary at first, especially if you used to rely on relationships to regulate your emotions. But this is a powerful stage of healing because when you feel at home with yourself, you stop forcing yourself into environments that drain you. Your standards rise naturally, not because you're trying to be better, but because your nervous system no longer tolerates what destabilized you. Now, here's the reframe that most women need. You're not becoming cold, you're becoming clear. Clear about what you tolerate, clear about how you want to feel, clear about who has access to you, clear about what kind of life actually supports your peace. Your old life was built around being needed, being available, being accommodating, being emotionally strong for others. Your new life is being built around being regulated, being grounded, being selective, being honest with your energy. This shift can feel lonely, but not everyone comes with you into your next version of your life. But that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something brave. No one really talks about this part. There is a grief and growth. You grieve the version of you that survived so much, the relationships you outgrew, the dreams you had when you were still operating from pain, the person you were when you didn't know better, even when your life is better. There's a sadness in realizing how much you once tolerated. That grief doesn't mean you regret your healing. It means you're honoring your journey. You're allowed to miss what no longer fits you. You're allowed to feel tenderness for who you were. Growth doesn't erase your past, it integrates it. When you stop living life waiting for reassurance, permission, understanding, approval, validation, and you start living life from self-trust, self-awareness, internal alignment, everything changes. You don't need people to get it for it to be right. You don't need external confirmation for your choices. You don't need to prove your healing. You begin to comprehend yourself. And that's the kind of clarity that can be shaken by other people's opinions. This is adulthood in its deepest sense. Not age, but an internal authority. And one day, you look around your life and realize you're living in a way your old self couldn't even imagine. You move differently, you choose differently, you speak differently, you walk away faster, you stay grounded longer. Not because you became perfect, but because you became present. Your old life doesn't fit anymore because you don't fit inside the old version of yourself. And that's not lost, that's expansion. If this episode spoke to you, it's because you're in a quiet identity shift. You're not losing your old life, you're outgrowing it. And you don't have to make that transition alone. This channel exists for women who are learning to choose themselves without guilt, to build a life that fits who they're becoming, not who they had to be to survive. When you like this video, you help another woman realize she's not broken for changing. When you subscribe, you become part of a community that values growth over comfort. And when you share this, you give somebody else the permission to outgrow what no longer fits. You're not leaving your old life behind because you failed. You're stepping into a new one because you healed. You choosing yourself breaks the old roles. You honoring your peace breaks the old patterns. You walking forward breaks the chain. And I am very proud of you for being in this season. So let's keep growing and healing together. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.